Good afternoon, everybody. I am so excited to share with you today one of my favorite authors and artists and illustrators from Edinburgh and his partner in crime, Alec Beatty. So welcome, Max Scratchman and Alec.
Hello.
Hi there.
And today
Hi.
we're going to talk about your new show that you're going to be presenting at the 2015 Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And what's the name of it?
It's called Edinburgh in the Shadows.
And what's up with the shadows? Is it scary?
Edinburgh in the Shadows, nothing whatsoever to do with Cliff Richard's backing bands. It should have been Edinburgh colon in the Shadows, but we sort of dropped the colon at some point, so it's just Edinburgh in the Shadows. And it's like, hold on, it's stories that the travel brochures won't reveal. It's a sort of off the beaten track spoken word journey through Edinburgh's lesser known miscreants, unfortunates, and flawed geniuses.
I like miscreants and flawed geniuses. Can you tell us more?
Well, an example of a flawed genius could be a guy called James Zhong Sampson, who is credited with pioneering the use of chloroform as an anaesthetic. So that's the genius part. The flawed part is that he used, when he was trying to find the ideal anaesthetic, what he used to do would be to invite people to his home in Edinburgh for dinner, and then afterwards he would get them to inhale various chemicals that he stored in decanters so that he could observe the effects. And apparently it was like the talk of the town that people were going, I was at James Young Simpson's for my dinner last night and I got smashed, basically.
Oh, no, medical research is so fun.
So, yeah, that was like the byline was like all for the betterment and advancement of science, as like people were inhaling various chemicals from cut glass decanters and then falling crashing to the floor.
Oh my
So
God.
his dinner guests would be found lying on the floor for most of the evening.
Yeah.
That's a cheap date, I guess.
Yeah. So the fun part is that Simpson just basically used his friends and family as guinea pigs for his own scientific ends, and we explore that through his niece, who was apparently she was there the night that they actually found anaesthetic, the chloroform, and you explore that through an excerpt from her diary the following day when she explains in sort of a sort of colloquial contemporary Edinburgh voice what it was like, rather than the sort of huffy puffy 1850s Victorian la-di-da voice.
Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. How did you guys get interested in doing this? This isn't your first production. You've done fringe performances before, but what's your background and what led you to do this show?
Yeah, I'll let Max do some talking, I think.
Okay, this show actually came about from a couple of years ago when Alec and I were involved in a project which was called Poets on a Bus, and a bunch of us were selected to go on the Edinburgh tour, and as we passed various locations in the city, one of us would stand up and recite a poem about that particular thing. But the thing with that tour was that we felt that they weren't covering anything that was particularly interesting. It was all the dull sights around the city, and we wanted to get into the people that are not normally talked about. So we sort of thought, we sat down one day and we said, well, who would be good, you know? And there was this guy, and there was this wonderful doctor, for instance, that was a terrible doctor. He was a drug addict, and he was always killing patients, and he eventually killed himself when he was about to be tried for murder. And the people of the town, instead of sort of burning his house down to eradicate all traces of him, put a monument up to him about what a great guy he was. And we thought, well, let's tell the story of really who's the man behind the monument. And we just got into it, and we just found there were so many miscreants all around Edinburgh. And there are so many tours in the city which, are we allowed to say they're boring? Yeah. They're expensive and they're boring, you know, and we thought we'd be much more interesting and a lot cheaper.
the double-decker buses, and they take you around the city centre on a double-decker bus without a roof, exposing you to the elements, and then they charge you 14 quid for it, which is like shocking when you can come to a show and you're indoors with a roof over your head and you don't have to pay 14 quid.
I know, and you get great poets and storytellers.
Basically, anyway, we will ask for money.
I just love you guys. I wish I was in Scotland this summer to come listen to your show. So since I'm not, can you give me an excerpt?
Another one is this thing. It's when back in the 16th century, back in the 16th century, 17th century, Edinburgh was the focus for witch hunts and witch trials. The king at the time, King James the Sixth, was like a rabid witch hunter, and he came out with this book called Demonology, which basically it was like a dummy's guide to hunting out witches and burning them. And basically, it was what James said and what people believed was his message that the only proof you need of someone being a witch is someone to accuse them of being a witch. So from that point of view, we thought, well, we sort of done some investigating, and there are cases where people were like accusing their neighbours of being witches, and the magistrate would say, well, what were they doing? And they would say things like, they can make young men cast their seeds while they sleep, or they can make like milk go sour, or I put a loaf of bread on the table, and when I got up this morning, it moved. So she's a witch and stuff like that. But there were like people who were like condemned for being witches, and they sort of really piled it on to make the accusation stick. So they would say things like, "Oh, we saw so and so. The woman we were accused of being a witch. We saw her in a churchyard eating bones." Or we saw her walking down the street and she didn't cast a shadow. Ooh. Or she made her husband die. She told everyone that she hated her husband and she wished he was dead. And 2 days later, he mysteriously died when a cat horse run him over. Yeah.
It sounds crazy.
Yes.
The best one, of course, was the one that they made beer go sour.
Yeah.
They made water.
There was a woman who was accused of being a witch and burned, and her accuser said it was an innkeeper who accused her of having the power to make his beer weak, because people were going into his tavern and going, your beer's really weak. That's nothing to do with me. It's witchcraft, I tell you, witchcraft. And then there you go.
You guys in Edinburgh, you have some characters.
Yeah, it's rather unfortunately most of them get burnt for being witches.
So speaking of your two characters, where can people find your show this year?
Well, it's in Edinburgh, a place called the Pilgrim, which is an old, ancient, historic part of Edinburgh called the Grass Market. Mm-hmm. Which is very nearby the Royal Mile. Everyone will know where the Royal Mile is. Yeah, if people are coming over from the States specifically to come and see mine and Max's show, we will be looking for people to come to the show, and we will be handing out flyers at various points. So that's where the show is, and it's on from the 8th of August until the 18th of August, and it's part of the Free Fringe, which means that it's a free show and not 14 quid for a bus tour.
And indoors.
We let you in for nothing, but we don't let you out until you pay us something.
Yeah.
Now we clear, right?
That's basically the deal. We let you in for nothing, but you don't get out again unless you give us money. Lots of.
But you can give whatever you like,
Yeah.
Small deeds to houses, whatever. Checks. We take anything.
A litter of puppies.
Yeah, puppies are good.
I'm dog phobic. I don't like dogs.
Oh, sorry, kittens. Yeah.
Well, everybody, I will put the information down in the information box below. But Max and Alex, do you have anything else you want to leave us with?
Yeah, but please come along to our show. It's more coherence. We're still at the sort of rehearsing stage, so yeah. When we start, it'll be polished and shiny like Max's and mine's heads.
Yes.
Well, thank you both for sharing your show today. I hope many people go to see it, and I wish I could see it. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.